So you just saw my Jenga game for September, and I'll quickly go through the books that I picked for that. So I did switch out one from my original pick, which was for my mass market paperback. I decided, I don't know if this is really a mass market paperback. I tend to think of those as the tiny ones, but this is the one I really want to read, so I'm going with this. It's a paperback. I'm sure it's mass market somewhere, so I'm going to go for it. This is The Fair Fight, Two Women, Two Worlds, One Way Out, and I have been wanting to read this for a while. I had it, or I got it, I'm gonna say like November of last year, so almost a year ago, because I saw, who did I see? I think I saw Lauren in the Books talk about this. I don't think she had read it yet. In fact, she might be reading it this month or last month. I don't know. I'm a little bit behind on her videos, but I know that she was talking about it. I know she hadn't read it yet, but she put it on my radar. It sounded really interesting, so I went ahead and got a used copy of it, and so I'm excited to read this one. The Fair Fight is a hugely exciting and entertaining novel written with warmth, charm, authority, and above all, terrific flair. I loved it, says Sarah Waters. Sarah Waters is a phenomenal storyteller, so if Sarah likes it, maybe I will too. For history, I picked up this one because I need to read it. It's been on my TBR for a few months now, and I haven't gotten to it. This is an ARC copy of Brothers on 3. This is a history book, but it's very recent history. It's the true story of family resistance and hope on a reservation in Montana. Received this as an ARC. I was really excited to read it. It must have been June. And I I was really excited to read it, but then the month got away from me with moving and all of that, and then there was Jane Austen July, and then there was I'm not reading anything I have to read, I'm going to do this totally different thing, August. So I think this goes back to my June TBR. I didn't get to it, so I need to read this like right away and give you some feedback on it. But yeah, it doesn't say the exact date. It just says advanced reading copy, September 2021. Then for fiction, I picked this one, Miss Timmins' School for Girls. This is set in India. It's written by an Indian author, and it takes place, it's a scandal at a British Indian boarding school in northern India, which it's not in the same place that I lived and worked, but it is the same kind of setup. A very British influenced boarding school in northern India, and so I'm excited to read about this and see what the scandal is and see what happens, what the story is. I think it's a mystery. India was a great place to buy books. It really was. They were incredibly affordable, huge scope to choose from, many, many, many amazing bookstores. Yeah, India, and also just on the side of the street, like India is a place for book lovers. For sure. I don't feel like enough people talk about that, but India is definitely a place for book lovers. So I'm excited to read this. Ms. Timmins' School for Girls. It's not new. It's a backlist title. Should we find out what year it was from? It is from 2011. So for memoir, I am maybe this is for spiritual philosophy. I'm maybe pushing it a little bit, but I wanted to get my hands on this month. It is Beyond the Trees, A Journey Alone Across Canada's Arctic. I've been on a real Canadian wilderness kick, specifically Newfoundland. This is not Newfoundland, I don't think. But I have absolutely been on this weird kick about Canadian wilderness. I don't know what it is. I did this with Iceland a while back too. Right now it's Canada. And this is not a philosophy spirituality book, but I think anytime anybody spends a significant time alone, it becomes a time of philosophy and spirituality. So I'm going to count that. Then memoir, I picked this set of short essays about Paris. This is Best-Selling Women Writers on the City of Light, A Paris All Your Own. I love reading about Paris. I love anything having to do with Paris. And so I am going to go ahead and finally read this. I've had these essays for a while now. For true crime, again, I might be blurring the lines of acceptability a little bit again, but this is Mrs. Robinsons' Disgrace. It is another Kate Summerscale. I think this is her first book. Now, if we go back in my Kate Summerscale journey, first I read The Wicked Boy and I absolutely loved it. One of the best things I've ever read. So amazingly wonderful. More recently, I read The Haunting of Alma Fielding, and I did not like that one. I thought it was disorganized and confusing and never really made a clear statement about anything. The argument that she was trying to formulate was poorly rendered. So we're gonna try again. This is Mrs. Robinsons' Disgrace, The Private Diary of a Victorian Lady. So from what I understand, you've got Mrs. Robinson here, and she's in an unhappy marriage, and she develops a crush on somebody, and she writes this kind of fantasy-driven journal. And her husband finds it and believes that everything in it has actually occurred, but in reality, it's all in her imagination. I think that this creates huge scandal because he then tries to divorce her, which wasn't something that was readily available to most people back in this time period. So I think that's what we're getting into. There could be shades of gray there that I don't understand yet or I'm not aware of, but that is my understanding of this case, which I am already familiar with. So I'm interested to see what she does with it and where she takes it and what kind of connection she's trying to make. Because one of the things that I really like about Kate Summerscale is how she tries to take all these seemingly disconnected things and create unity and clarity and meaning, which she does really well in The Wicked Boy and not so well in Alma Fielding. I want to know how she does with Mrs. Robinson. Then, what was this? This was YA. I want to read some fantasy, so I'm going to read The Queens of Enislar. This is, or Enislar, I'm not sure. This is, I believe, Shakespeare inspired. King Lear. Lear. A dude from, 200 years ago, still popular. So I'm excited to read that and see what it looks like when it's a fantasy. And then I want to read this one. I think this was just a fiction pull, and I want to read this because I have never read these and I want to know if they're worth it. I did start the TV show, the HBO TV show, and I didn't like it. But I don't know that I gave it enough time. It might just have been that moment. I wasn't interested in it. It felt needlessly dramatic, over dramatic to me. So we'll see how I get on with this. I got this for a song. I think I paid 75 cents for it. So I am going to give this a try. And if I like it, I will continue the series. And if I don't, I am very willing to DNF. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens. And then, as always, there are books that I am reading just to keep moving forward with reading them. So last month I should have read Bleak House, but I decided to skip it. I have read it recently, and so I'm not going to reread it again recently. And then the next one would be Hard Times, which is awesome. I read this when I was in college, my freshman year of college. I read it for a history class. And I don't remember much about it, but I remember that I had to read it, not because I'd procrastinated, but because this is as much time as was allotted for it. I had to read it in 2 days. And I did that in a lot of ways. This is my very first Dickens that I ever read. And I liked it. I remember realizing that this is very different from other Dickens. I think it's darker. I think there's a less like comic relief through character. But I could be wrong. So I haven't reread it since I was a freshman in college. So I'm curious and excited to read this one again. And then it should be Little Dorrit, but I just read Little Dorrit last year, so I'm skipping Little Dorrit, and I am reading A Tale of Two Cities. Now, normally I only read one Dickens, but these two Dickens together equal one Dickens as far as I've been reading for the past 6 months. And I need to read 2 this month in order to stay on track with my group, my scheduled group, and finish at the end of the year with them on the same novel. So I'm gonna attempt to read both of those together at the same time. Now, if I only get through Hard Times and half of A Tale of Two Cities, that's fine. I can pick up the other half of A Tale of Two Cities next month and then read Great Expectations, which is also next month. So A Tale of Two Cities can kind of be like a hinge book. It doesn't really matter. And then I have The Small House at Ellington to read. I believe I have 2 months for this. Let's see here. September and October, November, December. Actually, I think I only have this month to read this if I'm going to stay with the group, because, although it doesn't really matter, because there's one more after The Small House of Ellington for the Barchester Chronicles series. And we have 2 months to read it, and I've got 4 months till the end of the year. But I don't think there was anything scheduled to read for December, which is why I think probably The Small House at Ellington was an August-September pick. Was the August-September book, and then the last Chronicle of Barchester is the October-November pick, and then there's nothing in December. So I think I'm okay to start this in September, finish it in October, pick up the last book, just finish it before December. I think I'll be fine. This one is a little bit thicker than the previous books. It is a surprising and frightening 666 pages long. 666, that seems about right for me and Anthony Trollope. But I am going to read this one. I do love that cover. I know the cover is just a piece of artwork. It has nothing to do with the actual book. But I should find out what that cover is, what that painting is, because it is very pretty. I'm not seeing it readily, so I will have a deeper look later. But Small House at Ellington, I don't know what it's about. 5th book, Lily Dale, Trollope's most admired heroine, recounts the tale of her love for the ambitious, self-seeking Crosby. Crushed by his faithlessness, she tries unsuccessfully to conceal her grief, and despite the deserving attention of her honest suitor Johnny Eames, sentences herself to a life of spinsterhood. Sounds like more fun times with Trollope. Okay, but I am going to finish the series. So, and speaking of series, we have the next book in the Irish Country Doctor series, which is an Irish country doctor in peace and at war. And I don't know where we're going to be or who we're going to be with. Let's see. So we're in World War II. We've got Sergeant, Lieutenant O'Reilly, German measles. Yeah, and as always, shifting deftly between two very different eras. Patrick Taylor's latest Irish country novel reveals more about O'Reilly's tumultuous past, even as Ballybuckle Bull faces the future in its own singular fashion. So we'll be in the 60s or 70s in Ballybuckle Bull, and we'll be in the 40s with Fingal O'Reilly. That is it. That is a lot, but that is all of my planned reading for this month. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. I've only delegated 12 books that I absolutely have to read this month. So we'll see if I can fit a few more in. I would, if possible, like to pick up House of Leaves again, maybe. I also was hoping that the Jenga game would be kind and let me pick these, but it didn't. So these will be my first 3 that I go to if I have enough time to read more than these 12. I think these 12 might keep me extremely busy, though. They're pretty long, some of them. And I'm going back into classics. I think I read 1 classic last month in August. So going back into all those classics, and those take a little bit longer. So we'll see. These 12 might do it for me, because going back to school in September, so exciting. Back to teaching, and that's going to be not only busy, but very unpredictable with everything happening with COVID and all of that stuff, Delta variant. And who knows what other variants might come out. So just kind of keeping an open mind, keeping as an open schedule, holding these very loosely as a goal for reading for the month. And yeah, we'll see what we get through and what we don't. Victober is right around the corner, and actually, if you look very carefully, you can see my Victober TBR is sitting right back there, and then sitting right in front of me on my dining room table is my TBR for nonfiction November. So I'm booked. Quite literally, I am booked. Anyway, let me know if any of those interest you. I'm steering away from reading like super brand new books, mostly. I say that, and I have a book that hasn't even been released yet. I have an ARC on this list, but you know what I mean. I'm tending to try and choose a bunch of backlist books. So I'm just kind of trying to go back in time and reread some of the books that I might have missed, that I might not have gotten to, that I might have wanted to read but forgot that I wanted to read. I mean, there's definitely some hype on this list. My Brilliant Friend is maybe one of the most hyped books of my lifetime. But mostly, I read what I want to read. So let me know if there's anything on here that you would want to read or that you have read. And let me know if it was any good or not, in your opinion. Yeah, thanks.